Okay, so now I need that and that. I think, yes, I do. Okay. And that's all. So,
Come cheer up, me lads, this is glory we steer, to add something new to this wonderful year. To honor we call you, not press you like slaves, for who are so free as the sons of the waves. Heart of oak are our ships, jolly tars are our men, we always are ready. Steady, boys, steady. We'll fight and we'll conquer again and again. We ne'er see our foes, but we wish them to stay. They never see us, but they wish us away. If they run, why we follow and run them ashore. Or if they won't fight us, we cannot do more. Heart of oak are our ships, bloody tars are our men. We always are ready. Steady, boys, steady. We'll fight and we'll conquer again and again. They swear they'll invade us, these terrible foes. They frighten our women, our children and beaux. But should their flat bottoms in darkness get o'er, still Britons they'll find to receive them on shore. Heart of oak are our ships, bloody tars are our men. We always are ready. Steady, boys, steady. We'll fight and we'll conquer again and again. We'll still make them fear and we'll still make them flee, and drop them on shore as we've dropped them at sea. Then cheer up, me lads, with one heart let us sing. Our soldiers, our sailors, our statesmen, our kings. Heart of oak are our ships, jolly tars are our men. We always are ready. Steady, boys, steady. We'll fight and we'll conquer again and again.
and good evening, ladies and gents. That was just a little tune to get us started, and for the half a dozen people who might come and watch this to get in. I would like to welcome the guests I have, Sojourner and some Northern Nationalists. Very nice to see you, mates.
Evening.
This is not going to be a very organised stream, I got to say, because like my idea for it was to just give a little bit of advice to young men, and also to give some sort of direction to the way my channel is going to be going in the future. Which I've spoken to both you guys about this a little bit, so both of you know that. And I really want to get away from like attacking other groups. Don't think that's really a good way to go. I've said what I need to say about some groups. I mean, if someone asks me a question, I'm going to answer it, but I don't want this group to be, or my channel to be about attacking other groups, because, you know, they're doing what they're doing. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And I think what I'm going to do is better, but that's the way it is. And I also think that one of the things that's been hugely neglected in terms of British and old Commonwealth nationalism is giving advice to young men, because like I think probably most of our audience in many respects are young blokes, and many of them sadly these days don't have a father, and they have far too few relatively good male role models to like look at. And I think that's extremely important for young blokes. And I will then pass it on to some Northern nationalists and sojourners to say what they think about that.
Well, yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, the reality is that people aren't given direction in life in our country anymore. They're just sort of told to do whatever they feel like, and they'll be okay by some miracle.
I was watching your stream earlier,
yeah.
Phil, about when you were talking about that stuff, and I know you're a dad and a family man, and the head of a family, and I reckon that's pretty important. And I think lots of young guys these days don't even know how to do that stuff. But I don't know what Sojo thinks. I mean, Sojo will have his views on that.
I don't know really, because I don't really know many like young kids, I suppose. You know, people coming of age at 18, 20 or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know many people that age in real life, so it's hard for me to get a gauge on, you know, what life is like for them. So I think in many ways you can kind of just forget that and just sort of, you know, you can talk about, you know, roots and things that are wholesome regardless of whether you have a father in your life or not. You know, that shouldn't matter, because, you know, good principles are still good principles, regardless of whether you've got a dad or not. So that's kind of the way I see it.
See, I think that, like, you can get away with not having a dad if you've got a granddad, for example, who's a good bloke. And you can get away with not having a dad if you have good older male friends who are blokes who've done and stuff. You know, they've had a family and that kind of stuff. But I think blokes, like men in particular, they kind of need that to get beyond that teenager stage that we all go through. And like I know I went through a teenager stage which was at least 8 or 9 years too long. But that's just my view. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
They need a good kick up the arse. What it comes down to is that, yeah, they do need some sort of father figure to sort of kick him into shape, because without being kicked into shape, there's a worrying trend where a lot of young blokes are fucking remaining as man children until they're like fucking 38 or shit, and they wonder why they can't get a missus or have a kid and stuff.
Yeah, I don't disagree with it. Sojo, what do you think about that, mate?
I don't know. In many ways, I find it quite hard to talk about the subject because I'm not a father myself. I know both of you are dads. So
yeah, but forgive me, Sojo. You're intelligent. I wouldn't say you were a young man, because I don't think you're a teenager or anything like that. Yeah, exactly. Me too. I remember those days. But I reckon you're an intelligent young bloke, and you've got a reasonably good career, and you have some sort of life plan. So I just think I'm sure you must have people in your background who were like male ancestors who have had some influence on you, surely.
Well, I think there's no doubt that my dad's helped me, but in many ways he never really gave me any guidance. He's just been there for me when I've needed him. I've always kind of done my own thing. I've always kind of charted my own course. For instance, I could have gone into the family business, but I decided to go and make my own business. So in that way, I kind of broke with tradition. So, I mean, one thing just strikes me is that, you know, no one's going to care for you more in your life than your parents, than your mum and dad. No one will have the same level of investment in you as they do.
100%.
So it, you know, I just find it very hard to put myself in a position where, you know, imagine yourself as a father and you don't actually care about your children. I think you're right. You know, kids do need a kick up the arse, and if you're not going to get that from your dad and your mum, who are you going to get it from?
Yeah.
So I think, if you don't have that in your life, it's going to be much harder for you, and you're going to have to sort of really double down and do those things yourself. You're going to have to sort of if that person is not in your life, you're going to have to really just take the responsibility entirely for yourself if there's no one else around.
Yeah, no, I agree with that totally, man. I'm thinking that like eventually, when some Northern nationalist daughters are older, like someone who wants to be one of those girls' boyfriends is going to be absolutely shit scared of Phil, and that is as it should be. That's as it should be, because that means they will treat those girls with absolute respect, which I think is kind of a Western tradition.
We have to be that way because, my daughter, she's 12 years old, and even now, like, occasionally, like, some lad will knock on it. Oh, it's Courtney coming out. And I'd say, no, not coming out now, go away. And that's how you have to be. If you're not that way, if you just go, yeah, you decide whatever you do, Courtney, you go out and blah, blah, blah. If you just allow your kids, I suppose it's different with boys and girls. When it's a boy, I suppose, I'm our son, but I'm assuming you allow them to be more free. But when you've got a daughter,
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
When you've got a daughter, you realize quite quickly that you have to be incredibly protective, and if you don't, they're gonna go down a really, really bad path. So you have to be more authoritarian in that regard. But
Yeah, no, I think so. Yeah, it's traditional, isn't it? Look,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I was a teenage boy, and I was going out with a girl, and a girl turned around and said to me, "Well, you got to come with me and my dad." That was the most terrifying fucking thing you could do, because you had to go and meet this girl's dad, and if he didn't like you, that was you gone, mate. You were gone. He had to think you were a stand-up guy who would look after his daughter, and I think that was totally traditional British and Western tradition. I think that's the way all things were always done, and for a very good reason, because like the dad would like weigh up the boyfriend and say, well, is this bloke hardworking guy? Is he going to look after my daughter? Or is he going to be nice to her? And just obvious shit that makes common sense, really.
Whereas women don't do that. Like women, they're just accepting of everyone. They're like, oh, you're a boyfriend. Okay, yeah, blah, blah, blah. That's the way they are. They're just like nice to everyone, aren't they?
Yep. I mean, I'll give you an example. I remember this is like from how long ago was this? This is from 37 years ago or something. I was in South Africa and I was staying with a guy who I knew. He wasn't my mate. Like, he was like 30 years older than me, so he obviously wasn't my mate. And we were in the kitchen. And it was in South Africa, and we were in the kitchen, and his daughters. He had 3 extremely cute daughters, and we were in the kitchen and swapping swear words in South Africa and English, and he caught us, and we were chucked out the next day. And at the time, I was really pissed off, but actually, he was based. He was totally based.
Mm-hmm.
It was so not the thing.
Caught you doing what? I didn't quite.
We were. No, well, not really. Rudy, sorry, it's my little dog going off. We were swapping swear words, like English swear words versus South African swear words.
Oh right, I see.
Yeah, and these chicks knew all the swear words. Of course they did, because kids just do. But he caught us, and we were chucked out the next day, and I think that was actually quite based these days. I didn't at the time, because one of the girls was really cute, but I kind of understand why he did it. It was just like, it's what dads do, and they should. And they should.
I get the impression that kids don't really respect their parents in the same way they used to. I like, for instance, even to this day, I kind of still fear my granddad. But I don't have that sort of same level of intimidation with my parents. Although they were quite strict, but when I look at some younger people in a way that they talk to their children, and it's almost like they're trying to be their friends, and it just that just actually doesn't seem right. You're there to be a parent, not a friend.
Yeah, I think to some degree you can be both, but I think you also have to have that level of authority.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I think, like you said, so Joe, is that in modern day, there's this culture of fucking liberty. It's like in the school situation that the idea is that, well, the school setting, they just allow kids to do whatever they feel like, provided they turn up to lessons and do the work and do whatever they feel like. And I think a lot of parents are like that as well, where it's got a word as well. What's the word called where you just allow your kids to do whatever they feel like? It's just laissez-faire parenting, which just do whatever you feel like, and I'm your best friend and all that stuff. But unfortunately, as a parent, you have to be authoritarian and to some degree. Like I said, if I would have allowed my daughter to hang around with that lad or whoever, who knows what could have happened. So you have to control peer groups as well. Like, you notice that quite quickly, that if you allow your kid to play with certain people, they will go down a bad path.
Yeah.
And if you don't control that, if you just if you think, well, I've taught my kid all the lessons in life and they'll still be a moral good person, even though they're hanging around with some Jeppo who smokes weed at 12. It's like, no. You have to control who your kids play with. You have to control everything pretty much. The entire life.
Yeah, I agree, Phil. I think you're cool on that, and I agree with you, Sojourner. I don't know. I like when I was a teenager and I was going out with teenage girls because I was a teenager, and even up to when I was maybe like 21, 22, meeting someone's dad was a big deal because you had to absolutely be a stand-up bloke and be reasonably smart, and obviously someone who that dad would trust with his daughter for the evening. You would not only not do anything bad to her yourself, obviously, but if like a fight broke out, you'd protect her, and that used to be just standard, I think, for young guys.
You're 55, aren't you?
I am, mate. I am.
Yeah. So basically, there's 20 years between us, and I can tell you that that kind of experience never happened to me. Like not being
really?
certainly not vetted.
Never.
Not at all. Not to the point where the girl would say, "Oh, actually, my dad doesn't like you, and we can't go out." It's a case.
No. The girl would never tell you that. The dad would just tell you to fuck off. In my era, he would just say, "Go away. You're not allowed with my daughter."
No, but what I'm saying is that I think for someone my age, the father wouldn't even feel comfortable saying that, and even if he did, I would imagine the daughter would just rebel and say, "Actually, I don't care what you have to say. I will see you behind your back," kind of thing.
Yeah, I see that.
I never saw. Every time I've been with someone, I've never met my dad. I've never met my missus' dad. In fact, I met my missus' dad way into the relationship before it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
But Phil, if someone meets your daughter, I presume you expect to meet her.
I will definitely meet whoever the fuck he is. This is definitely.
Right, and if he's not up to scratch, you'll tell him to fuck off, I presume.
Well, yeah, I've got loads of plans. I'm only joking, but I thought about this. I thought one thing I could do is I'm not gonna fuck around. Like if I don't like her choice of partner, then there's several options in there. There's one I can tell him to fuck off. If he doesn't fuck off, then I'm gonna plant drugs on him. I'll plant drugs on him and call the police. Or
Phil has no limits.
Or I'll beat myself up. I'll beat myself up in the living room while he's in there. And then when she comes in, I'll go, "Oh, look what he's done to me. He's hit me for no reason." She'll go, "Get out. How dare you hit my dad?" And I'll go, fuck you. Did you fucking...
I mean, honestly, when I was a young fella, like when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, like going to a chick's house that was the dad looking you up and down, like, and the mum to some degree, but it was mostly the dad. And like, if the dad didn't like you, you were buggered, mate. That was the end of it. You know, nothing was going further from there. So I don't know, man. I think that's like, maybe it's dad's cucking more. Not you, Phil, because you sound like you got the right idea.
I support Sojo in the sense that what you're talking about doesn't really exist anymore. Well, not in English community. It happens in Muslim communities. If you're to Muslim communities or Jewish communities or black communities, probably still meet the dad. But in English culture nowadays, you don't need to meet the fucking dad ever. Well, if you want to, you can just
isn't that so strange that you think about how sort of special it is to meet someone, to get like a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, and then you're not excited about introducing that person to your nearest and dearest. There's something really actually quite sick about that, like fundamentally wrong about that.
Totally agree.
You don't want to share that happiness with your family. There's something very strange about that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Well, I think probably because it's not. Relationships are not set up in the same way that they used to be. It used to be the case that people had relationships because they were getting married and kids in the foreseeable future. Whereas nowadays, people have relationships just to fuck, don't they? It's just fuck and go on holidays, maybe have kids. I don't know, 20 years time.
But Phil, even that, like, I don't know. Like, I've got a son. I haven't got a daughter. And I'm quite grateful for that in many respects, because like, and the same with my dad. And my dad had two sons, but had he had a daughter, I think he would have gone insane. But that was back in the day, like, born 1965, and even then, I think he would have gone insane. But back in my day, like even in the like 1980s. And the early 90s, as a young bloke, if you were going out with a chickie babe, you might go out with her 2, maybe even 3 times, but eventually, if you guys were going to get serious and become a boyfriend and a girlfriend, you had to go and meet the dad and the family. You just had to. It was just the rule.
That's because back in the day, the family was patriarchal in nature, where the dad was the authority. Whereas nowadays, it's more matriarchal, where women have got more control over the household. And generally speaking, most relationships in England right now are purely financial. The woman's only with the man because he provides an income. He's some sort of simp who's only with her because he just wants to fuck her. He doesn't want to lose her. If he loses her, he won't be able to. He's like,
yeah, much sense. I don't disagree.
This will sound quite cynical, but in many ways, I look at a lot of relationships and think, well, they need to split the bills. They need someone to share an apartment with, and but to do that, you basically have to get into a relationship, which is like really a very cynical way to see it. But I think for a lot of people, financial pressures does mean that you have to stay in relationships that you don't want to be in, and also get together with people that you probably wouldn't necessarily do so. So, and that's not healthy at all.
And essentially, the modern day household, the woman is in control completely. She's been liberalized to the point where she looks at the man and she thinks, I can replace him quite easily. So she just doesn't affect him in the same way. And obviously, that's got a lot of negative thoughts on parenting.
Phil, you seem to have a pretty traditional household. So it can be done.
It can be done.
So it can be done.
Don't fucking simp ever. If you just don't simp ever, and also do your own thing. You have to be independent. Be an independent fucking bloke who's got their own shit going on. Whereas if you do create, you know what I mean. You just got to assert it. Really, you've just got to pass the test. Like a couple of occasions where me and my missus have split up, and the way that I split up with her, as I said, fair enough, whatever, see you later. That works. You just say, okay, whatever, bye. They're not used to that. They're used to a bloke. When you split up with women, they're used to the bloke simping over them and sort of negotiating a shitty deal. Whereas if you sort of
I
ignore
agree.
them and then
I
come
agree.
back about 2 weeks later, you sort of have more authority. But you know,
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that,
Just-
mate. I think that's much common sense in that. Sorry, Sergio.
Oh, I didn't actually say anything, but I just wanted to ask, what do you think is a reasonable definition of simping in a relationship?
simping, I'd say, well, you
Yeah,
sniff the
going too
farts
far is what I mean.
when you sniff the farts 24/7, where your entire life revolves around the woman. Like, there's too many blokes out there where their entire life is revolved around the woman. The woman makes up it. The
Yes,
woman
but
makes.
I think the problem here, and I've experienced this. I've got good friends, and they get into a serious relationship, and they basically disappear. And I've got a very good friend who, ever since he had kids and got married, I rarely ever hear from him anymore, and really sort of hurt me because we were good friends. But it does worry me about men who, because women don't have any trouble retaining their friendships. They got a whole network of friends. For men, it just seems that we will quite easily toss our good friends away when a woman comes along, and
So
that
true.
makes you vulnerable.
So
Women don't
true,
even like
Sergio.
this. Women don't even like this. When blokes do this, when blokes just completely throw away their life and dedicate everything to the woman, they don't fucking like it. Like,
They despise
sort of gave
it. Yeah, Phil, they despise it, actually. In the back of their mind, they despise you.
Whereas if
when you do that.
if you are sort of a dickhead, and I mean sort of a dickhead, where you sort of turn up pissed up or say, well, I'm going, mates, going pub, kind of like that in a weird way. That's my experience. Like, when you're not reliant on
Phil, how everybody knows the old trope of like women like bad boys, because they do. They just do.
I wouldn't say bad boy. I'd say they want a bloke who's independent and is just not going to fucking be there 24/7. And I think the reason for that is that when they're with a person, they want someone that if it doesn't work out all right, like if it ends or whatever, they can move on quite easily. Whereas if they know that you're a fucking simp and you're just going to dedicate your entire fucking life to him in every way, they're going to think, oh, I don't want to be with him because it's going to be a fucking arseache if we split up. He's going to be stalking me and all sorts of shit like that.
I don't even think it's that, Phil. I think you could take it right back to like the caveman era. And if you were a chickie babe back then, you wanted to be with the roughest and toughest guy who would just do what needed to be done to survive. Because that would mean that you and your kids would more likely survive. And I think it really just goes back to that, mate. I really do. It's completely anti-feminist, but then everything feminists do is against what real women do, strangely enough. Like, women pretending to be men and all this kind of stuff. It's not what they do. They can't do it.
Yeah, but the thing is that when I think about the women that I know, IRL and like women I used to work with, I can't really think of many who were out and out feminists. Really,
no, there ain't that many. Sojo, you're dead right.
I think that there's a massive. I think there's a trap that we fall into in these circles when you think that everybody around you is some sort of like crazed feminist, and actually, there's not. When I sort of think about my day-to-day interactions in the real world, there's no LGBT flags, there's no trannies, and I don't think I've ever met a tranny. This is all sort of like a fiction that you just see on TV, and I think for the most part, most people are just normal people with normal aspirations.
I don't disagree with that at all. I don't disagree with that at all. What do you reckon, Phil?
I think that's true. It's like the problem is when people are online, they do believe that that's how people are in the real world when they're not. Generally, like women, like you're talking about. Generally speaking, most women do want to have kids and do want to be mothers, but the financial aspects of it. That's why they don't do it, and also because men are acting in fucking childlike ways. They're not attracting the right type of woman, or engaging in some sort of behavior where they come across too needy or some bullshit. Like how I got my missus. I'll tell you how this happened. Right, I was talking to her for about 6 months, and I didn't even know that this was on Facebook. Actually, I met her through Facebook. I didn't even look at her profile or anything. I was just talking about normal shit, and then how I got with her was just the occasional conversation a couple of times a week, but it wasn't like constantly texting her and all this sort of bullshit. I just got on with my own thing, and then eventually did whatever. That's what you do, isn't it? Just
Yeah,
don't
that
overthink
makes
it.
sense. That makes
Don't
sense.
overthink shit. As soon as when people start overthinking it and making the bird their entire focus of their life, it'll blow up in the fucking face. Ultimately,
My experience is that women like a bit of leadership from blokes. They like to look up to you. They like to think, oh yeah, he's a good guy because he will guard me if I need guarding. Like he will fight if he has to. He will not agree with every bloody opinion that I have, because women have 50 million opinions about things in 24 hours. But he has his own ideas about what is right, and he sticks to them. And he's a good man in the sense, like, he's not going to be nasty to me, but he will guide me. And I reckon that is what most women want. Still, it's completely anti-feminist, but I think it's what most women still want.
and I think that's what a problem what a lot of blokes do as well. Is they'll tailor their personality to be more compatible with hers. Like they'll complement her political beliefs. Like say she's like some shit lib, they'll go, "Oh yeah, I'm a shit lib as well." Blah blah blah.
Yeah, and then she will despise you.
Yeah. Whereas if
Very
you just
soon.
say, if you're honest with her and say bollocks, you're full of shit, and go on some massive rant of why she's fucking wrong in every way, she'll hate you for a little bit, but she'll like you because you're not gonna.
Yeah, you'll probably have good sex that night.
Yeah.
To be a bit crude, but yeah.
But ultimately, both men and women need their counterparts to sort of call them out on their bullshit.
Yeah,
Because-
we're two sides of the same coin. Like male and female, masculine and feminine are two sides of the same coin. And it's that coin that the fucking leftists and the corporate globalists are trying to destroy it.
Oh, yeah.
Because they know that's where the natural balance of men and women comes in. Women have things that they are better at than men, and men have things that they are better at than women. And these fucking leftist bastards hate it.
Oh, yeah. It's like, with women, like my missus, she'll just stop me talking about politics like in real life. And it's like, yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point in all fairness, because it is kind of making the atmosphere a bit weird. But in the same essence, like if she's having a fucking emotional breakdown or some bullshit, I just say, you're worrying about or something. You know what I mean? You've got to, both of you.
You make total sense to me, mate. I totally agree. Sojo, what do you reckon of that?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about the subject of politics. I've never really made a thing of talking to my girlfriends about that stuff. I've always viewed that as being something. That's what I talk to my male friends about. If I want to talk politics, I'll talk to my male friends about that. And but because I mean, at the best of times, politics works me up, and the last thing I want to do is bring that energy into my relationships. Black pill them, or just like bring the tone of the mood, bring the mood down and everything like that. And really, you should be, going out and doing things and enjoying life together.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with any of that. I don't disagree with any of that. I just think that like everything we're facing in the world today is kind of aimed at destroying traditional and like natural male-female relationships. I just think it's aimed at that. It's one of the things they want to destroy, because if they can, it will make their world plan better. And I don't think that's particularly conspiracy theorists these days, to be honest.
At the end of the day, they're quite happy with a system where they keep women consumed or focused on materialistic bullshit, keeping men as man children. Because the reality is, if you're a childlike man and you're a childlike woman, you spend more money and you make more profit for people. Whereas if you start growing the fuck up, you start spending less. So.
Yeah, that's true. Because you're trying to save for your future, your kids' future, or that kind of thing. Yeah, I totally agree with that. That makes sense.
The other thing as well, though, is that medical advances are making it possible for women to have kids much later than they would have done in the past.
Yeah, but Sojo, sorry to interrupt you, but with very high chances of having a disabled kid in one way or another.
Yeah, but is that I don't know, because again, I've got another friend who has just recently told me that he's having another child, and his missus, I think, is 38. She's older than me. I'm 37 next year.
Yeah.
I think she's 38. So they will be having their second child at the age of 38.
Yeah, late 30s, I think women can get away with. I think it's when they go into the 40s that becomes very, very dubious.
Yeah, but I think the point I'm making is that I think it is possible to you definitely can balance like having a career if you want one and having a family and juggling that at the same time. I just think that there is a lot of pressure on people these days that they need to feel secure in their career, because the financial pressures are immense. That if you want to have a family, if you want to buy a 4 or 5 bedroom house, the facts of the matter is you've got to be earning a lot of money now.
Yep.
If a 5 bedroom house costs $500,000, 600,000, and you 700,000, and you can only borrow 5 times your income, well, you need a combined income of 100 grand. Who can how that? I mean, that's a big ask for a lot of people.
Also, the case.
Let me. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just one thing, Rudy, shut up. Sorry, I'm talking to my dog. Rudy, be good. Sojo, what I would like to ask you is, what do you think about this Great Reset, Build Back Better, all this kind of stuff? And the same to you, Phil, is how much do you put on this? Because I reckon this is a big push towards evil, basically.
Well, I'll make one observation, which is that in terms of advice to young people, if you're a young person now, then actually it really does pay to pay attention to what the elite are saying and what they're signaling. Mm-hmm. So if they're talking about renewable energy and all this kind of stuff, then actually they're sort of signaling to you that these are going to be the technologies and the areas of work in the future. So you can actually use the information that you've learned by being black-pilled, by being red-pilled, that actually the elites are in charge. And if you actually look at what the World Economic Forum says, they're kind of telling you exactly what they're going to do. So if you want to plan your career, if you want to sort of get a leg up on the elite, get a leg up in life and sort of do well for yourself, then if you genuinely believe the sort of conspiracy theories that are being touted in sort of right-wing circles, you would sort of understand what kind of careers and trades to go into. Because basically the World Economic Forum, the globalists, however you want to put it, they're kind of telling you exactly what they're going to do. So that if you, in terms of picking a career, you'd be foolish to sort of ignore what they're saying. If they're going to do all these things, you might as well cash in on it.
Yeah, because if you don't cash in on it, you're going to be the bugman, single person living in a fucking bed set in this fucking metropolitan global world.
Yeah,
that's what you're going to be doing. So you've got to get a foot. If you ever want kids and a family and a decent sized house in the future in England, you better start thinking about getting a good career because realistically, England is all the green aspects of England are going to be fucking gone. They're going to be
Oh,
building as many houses as possible. And I'd say in about 30 years' time, the majority of people are going to be living in, like they had
Pods.
commie block. They had commie
We'll be
block.
living in pods and eating bugs.
Yeah. That's majority of people will. The only people who will have a decent house will be really wealthy people.
But the thing is that in terms of actual sort of average square meterage of properties, the UK is already one of the worst in Europe.
Oh,
Yep. Yep,
And
absolutely.
that's just going to get worse. And I've got a friend who lives in Berkshire, and they recently sold a 1-bedroom masonette for like £300,000.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Christ.
A 1-bedroom masonette. Like you literally can't even have a family in that. That's a property that a single person should be living in, or a new couple. But that £300,000, it just boggles my mind in terms of having a family. So so what I'm about to say is going to be very controversial, but in many ways, serving the system is one of the only ways you can actually really get by now. And I hate to say it, but if you do want to have a family, it strikes me that kind of you have to serve the powers that be.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's a big black pill for me to take.
Because they're gonna get rid of council houses as well. I know people say, "Well, I can live in a council." No. Right, land is limited in England, so therefore property prices are, so they're subject to the amount of land we've got, and ultimately, the more people we're going to have in this country, which is going to increase rapidly, the higher the fucking house prices are going to be.
Yeah.
So the only way that you will able to have accommodation in the future is probably by having a mortgage. Probably, I think at one point you won't be able to. Well, and if you do rent a house, it'll be incredibly expensive. So you're going to be. Yeah, it's going to be a terrible fucking existence, pretty much.
Well, look. I would say, obviously, mass third-world immigration pushes up house prices.
Oh yeah,
and housing costs more generally in terms of renting. At the same time, it pushes down wages. That's just obvious, and
Yeah, it's obvious.
it's boring to keep saying it. So
yeah.
that's
But
the only time I'm going to say it.
they're going to change the kind of demographic they're going to have. Like the reality is, the kind of immigration of the future into England is going to be high-skilled Indians and high-skilled Asians, and so
I wish that was true, mate. I don't think it is, but I wish it was true to some degree.
But yeah, so like Sojo said, you better fucking adapt to the way the market's going, and if you don't, then
Oh, all right, guys. Listen, I'm going to move on in a minute to the direction I want my channel to take. But before I do, I want to ask both Phil and Sojo, what would their best advice to British young men be today?
My advice would be that if you're going to go to university, don't go to university in the UK. Go to Singapore. Go to an up and coming university in Asia, because they're not going to be posed. They're not going to teach you this bullshit that you're being taught in the UK. And basically, economically, the sort of center of gravity is shifting towards Asia anyway. So that could do you very nicely for your career.
Fair enough.
well,
Phil?
I'd echo that what Sojo's just said, and also what he said earlier in regards to adapt to the economy. But I'd also say buy property abroad. Like if you can buy property abroad in like developing nations like parts of Russia and China, in the future those property prices are going to be fucking insane. So you'll be able to, like now you can buy a house in like really rural areas of Russia for about $4,000. And you can buy a house right now as an English person. Yeah, so you can buy a house for $4,000. It's a shit house. It's a really fucking shit house, but I reckon in about 50 years or so, that'll be worth fucking loads. Considering how also it's an escape plan. Like if you really do want to escape the fucking dystopian bugman nightmare, you can just off there as well. I don't know. But in regards to getting kids and shit, I don't know. That's a bit.
But okay, fair enough. I see both of your points. I think they're good. But how would you guys, like Sergio and Phil, how would you suggest that young guys who are maybe 18, 19, 20, 21, how can you be a man in modern Britain? Like, what's the best way to do that? I know that's a hard question. I don't expect like really good answers, but I think it's something we should look at because it's a direction I'd like my channels to take.
Well, I think you.
Sorry, go on. I'll go then.
Carry on, one of you.
Okay, I will. Okay, I will go. I will go. Yeah, I think that maybe we kind of want to revive this idea of being the Renaissance man. So I had an argument on Twitter a couple of months ago by saying that I thought a lot of people were obsessed with sort of physical fitness, and yeah, that's one part of masculinity. But there's also the sort of intellectual side, your character as an individual. I think you just need to work on all of it. You want to be in shape. You don't have to be buff. You don't have to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you need to be slim, in shape, healthy. Get a hobby, ride, cycle, swim, whatever. But then also, for young people, you really do need to take your career and career choice really very seriously, whether that's academically or in a trade. Tradesmen can do very well for themselves, and if you're intelligent and you go into the trades, you could end up being a business owner or an executive for a trade firm, and you could do very well for yourself. So don't be put off by the kind of snobbery that you'll get. People will turn their nose up at trades, but if you're intelligent, you can do very well in a trade. Yeah,
good plan, man. Phil?
Literally, I was going to say the same thing, bros. Because I was going to say you need to be what Bowden called the cultured thug. Essentially,
yeah.
You need to be a well-rounded person. Because I agree with that. That in our circles, there's a lot of people who only focus on physical fitness, and even in regards to physical fitness, they only focus on lifting. And it's just silly. Like, you need good cardio gain, bit of
good cardio.
Sport.
Yes.
But also, get a trade. Get a trade. You'll do well. Like, or something like people look away from certain careers that earn a lot of trades that earn a lot of money. Like a lift engineer. Do you know how much a lift engineer earns a year? Have a guess. What? 80 grand a year they earn.
Yeah,
80 fucking grand. It's a good trade. It's a good trade to get in.
Oh yeah.
Many tradesmen can earn more money than many graduates. Yeah, absolutely.
But also, it's important to be a well-rounded person in regards to having a personality. You'll attract women if you've got a well-rounded personality. If you're just a gym bro, like there is a phenomena of the gym towel, like people who are only in the gym and that's all that's about them, and they don't get women. They don't get women because all they can talk about is protein and sets.
There are some gay gym people, you have to say. But yeah, okay.
So be a well-rounded person, get a trade, and you'll probably find a decent way. And also, if you're pursuing a woman, don't pursue too much. Just sort of pursue, and you'll end up there. Don't like.
If she wants to get caught, she'll let you know pretty easily.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But I suppose the game, you have to play the game then. And when you're playing the game, it's about not obsessing over them. It's weird. It's like, don't show you're interested, but show you're interested, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, good point, Phil. And also good point, Sojo. Yeah, I agree totally. See, there is common sense amongst British and Western men around still. It just needs to be like spread a bit to some of these guys who think that I'll never find a woman, which is absolute bollocks. That gets on my nerves a lot. It really does.
I'll tell you what it is as well, is that when you're younger, it's more difficult as well. I noticed that when I was about 16 to about 25, it was quite difficult to find a woman. And I think it's mainly because you're not a well-rounded person then. Like, you haven't got a developed personality. Your career's shit.
Mm.
Physically, you're dog shit, probably. So it's usually when you're in your late 20s, 30s that you find it more easier to get a bird. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I mean, like, I got a couple of chicks when I was about 18, but that was my own specific interest, I guess. And they weren't long-time girlfriends or anything like that. But eventually I worked out like a chick wanted a bloke who kind of ran stuff because that's what most chicks like. I'm sorry, I know feminists don't like that, but it's basically true. Women want you to run things.
Huh.
And they will, so long as they can look up to you and admire you, they'll be loyal as fuck. But the very second they don't look up to you and admire you, they'll go and do shit. Because that's just women. They're just like that. I don't think they've ever been any different. I think they were probably like that in the ancient world and probably even in the caveman era.
Power. They're attracted to power. Like, there's this myth that they're attracted to money. And it isn't money, really. It's just power. Like,
Yeah.
if you're powerful in one area, like, let's say I was an unemployed boxer, but I was fucking amazing at boxing,
Mhm.
I'd still get a bird. This is why they're attracted to
Yeah,
criminals.
absolutely right. Yeah.
Because criminals, although like these criminals, you know, you can think of certain chav criminals or whatever. The reason why they get women is because they've got a degree of power. It isn't like respectable power. They've got power.
No.
And also, I will say another thing as
100%.
well. Another thing as well is that when you're looking at women as well, you might look at a woman and think, right, she's really attractive and she's way out of my league or whatever. But there are plenty of women out there who are really attractive and they haven't got their shit together. They haven't got their shit together, so it's actually quite easy to get with them. This is why you'll see women, like really attractive women with unemployed people, fat people, etc., because although they look good, they're good eye candy, their fucking shit isn't together. So don't really get bummed down if you see like a really attractive woman. Just because she's attractive doesn't mean she's out of your league. She might be in your league. She might be just as bad as you are. The only good thing about her is that she's got a looks, but in every other regard, she's as useless as you are. So
Well, looks are the most important thing for women. But I would say that, like, what happens with quite a lot of blokes is they sell for like really not particularly good-looking women, not particularly fit, not particularly not fat, and I think that's a huge mistake. We've all seen these chicks walking around like you are 25 stone with 2 kids, and you wonder, if you're me anyway, you wonder, well, who had sex with that girl to give her 2 kids? Because, like, I probably literally couldn't, to be quite honest. So you've got to be fair about that, and like, on the other hand, you've got to look at, and this is something I said on a stream the other week. We at one stage had people going on about nationalist women and how they hadn't had kids. Now, I got to say, guys, and I'm quite sure that Sojo and Phil will agree with me on this, that if every single British nationalist woman popped out a kid every 9 months for the next, say, 10 years, it would not have the slightest difference in British demographics. And to try and say it did was ridiculous. All right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying so-called traditional British women shouldn't get married and have kids. I think they should, if they can find a good guy. But the idea that they should just get married to the next bloke that comes along and pop out kids every 9 months. So you're talking about like fucking the best part of 3 years for 3 kids. Forget it. It's nonsense. It ain't going to affect anything in terms of the demographics of a country like UK that has mass fair-board immigration. It's going to make no difference. Why are we talking about this? Are we just slagging off chicks? And listen, I agree. There are chicks who need slagging off. There are loads of whores out there. Loads. I've like been out with some of them. But on the other hand, there are many nationalist chicks who are maybe or hopefully waiting to meet the right bloke so they can marry them and then have 1, 2, or 3 kids or whatever. And the idea of slagging them off just because they haven't had kids is frankly retarded. I don't know what you guys think, but that's just what I think. I think it's retarded.
Well, it's just it's expensive as well. Like people say, oh, these women should just get married. It's like, do you know how much it costs to get fucking married? It's like really expensive.
I do. I did it.
It's also they've got to dedicate their entire fucking life. Well, they've got to dedicate at least 18 years to a kid, which costs a lot of money. It's very fucking expensive. And they've got to make the right choice. If they make the wrong choice, if they marry the wrong man and create a kid and that man's a piece of shit, they're fucked then. So they have to be a bit more careful. I mean, the main problem is that, yeah, women should be having more kids, but also a lot of you people need to get off the fucking internet and improve yourself so that women marry you. Yeah. That's the bottom line. You're not. There's a lot of blokes online who are just like, why can't I get pussy? Why can't I get pussy?
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. But my main thing, Phil, was like, for example, you get people who will talk about Door of Albion or Laura Taylor, and I don't know the exact age of either of those two, but I'm pretty sure, certainly in Door of Albion's case, she'd only marry someone who she really liked, and it's not fair to turn around and put all this shit on them.
No.
It's just not. Like the amount of legal immigration coming into UK. Leave aside all the illegal stuff that people like Base Welshman rightly go on about over the channel, but the amount of legal immigration coming into UK, it would not matter if people like Laura Taylor and Daughter of Albion and 1 or 2 others were to pop out a kid every 9 months if they could meet a bloke that they really loved. It would not matter because we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. People need to get a grip on reality instead of talking shit.
Yeah, that's the main issue. Dealing with the borders and the immigration needs to happen first. After that, you change the culture and the society, so you make it easier.
100. That's exactly my point. Yeah.
The thing is, if you change the culture now, so it's more easier for people to have children and stuff. Actually, you're going to make it easier for the non-natives who live here to have children as well. So
possibly true.
Yeah. I don't want them to have children. It's fucking weird.
Anyway, guys, I reckon. Sojo, you got anything to say on that?
Oh, I just think it's absurd that you've got these neets who spend all their time playing games on Steam and they live with their parents, and they're telling girls to go out and spread their legs and have a load of kids. It's just some of the most crass commentary I've ever heard. And
totally agree.
I'm never gonna criticize a woman for not having children when I don't have any myself. So it would just be incredibly hypocritical of me. And fundamentally, I don't think I'm a traditionalist. So I'm not. I think it's probably good for women to have children because that is going to perpetuate life. And having a family and having children is a big part of one's life. But this kind of fascination, this rabid fascination that a lot of people have on it. Yeah, I don't think it's very healthy, and I think, you know, in many ways the times have changed, and you know, I think we probably have to accept that women will be having children later on in their life, and less of them, but that doesn't spell the end of us as a people. I prefer quality over quantity, really.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say to that, Sojourner, is it does if we don't change our immigration policy. But yeah, okay, fair enough. Apart
Well, no,
from
I mean,
that,
you know, we will always exist as a people, but we may not be a majority in our sort of homeland. But you know, as long as
would
there's
you want to live in a Britain where you were a minority?
No, but that's why I don't. That's why I've left the country, because I can see the writings on the wall.
So you think that's going to happen, do you?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's
Yeah,
the numbers.
See,
the
I'd
numbers
sooner be dead. I'd sooner like fight a useless war and lose than accept that. I really would.
I think it's not like I don't share the same sentiments, but I just what good does it? What good am I doing by saying that? It's just a kind of right-wing virtue signaling.
No, I don't think that's true. I think you're pointing out to people that, like, I agree with lots of things you say about this stuff because we talked about it. But I think if you turn around and say that Britain can still be Britain if it's not majority, like original, actually white British people, then I don't agree with you on that. I'll disagree on that totally and always.
Yeah, but I think the problem is that people actually have a hard time separating people as a nation rather than the government. The people and the nation and the government are distinct things.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah. I don't love Boris Johnson, mate. I'd probably shoot him.
You know, we are probably going to have to start thinking about ourselves in the same way as the Jews think about themselves, that they are a people, regardless of whether they live under someone else's government, they still regard themselves as being a sort of distinct people.
Yeah, much true.
That will just happen to us.
Yeah, much true.
And if anything, it will probably reinforce and strengthen our culture, because when you've lost something and you're under threat, then you will naturally come together.
I don't know. I want us to get back to Agincourt and the Spanish Armada and Trafalgar and even Waterloo. And I will try to fight for that so long as I can. I really will. Because, like, you know, when Britain was the greatest nation in the whole wide world, by a long way, and, like, everyone from our political elite to the average peasant could go and do his stuff, and because he did it better than everyone else, we won.
Yeah, but you have to remember that you're just a guy sitting on the internet in Australia.
Yeah, and you're just a guy sitting on the internet wherever you are, and Phil is that, and we all are, obviously. I don't not get that. I just think that we can convert more, I hate the word normies, but we can convert more average people, because more and more average people can see what's going on. They really can.
I'm not really sure that sort of ethno-nationalism is really important to most people. I think they.
Well, I'm not an ethno-nationalist, Sojo. I'm not. Well, not totally. I'm not totally. Like, I could live with like 10 or even 12% of non-British people in UK. I could live with that. I'd reckon that'd be fine, so long as they were required to adopt British culture. The multicultural thing, I'm totally against. I have no room for that whatsoever.
That's not gonna end anytime soon. Multiculturalism, and especially liberalism, is not going to end anytime soon, is it?
No.
Yeah, Phil, I agree. I agree with you, mate. I'm not saying what's going to happen. I'm saying what I think about, and like liberalism. Yeah, I think you're right. And multiculturalism, I'm just totally against it. And like I said, I could live with 10 or 12% non-Indigenous white British people in the UK who were required to adopt indigenous British values.
Yeah, but look at
Whereas-
what are the British values though? If you look at
Yeah,
what
what are they?
No, not now, not now. I beg your pardon. I'm talking about traditional British values. I'm not talking about what the so-called Conservative Party talks about now. I mean,
Yeah.
the Conservative Party is Labour Party light at best. All right,
But how are you gonna?
But I'm trying to avoid making this a political stream. But yeah, I totally agree. I feel I agree with you totally. I like you're more left wing than me, mate, politically.
Probably, yeah.
But I agree with you on many of your basic points about the British people. Sojo is his politics is different to mine, but I agree with him on many basic things about British politics. And I think this is the way we've got to go. We've got to say, look, we agree on this, and the things we disagree on, we can argue about later. Because as Sojo just pointed out, like, we're all guys on the internet and we have no political power. None.
Yeah.
And we don't. And it's true. We don't. We do our little streams and there's people who like us and people who don't. And all I do my streams for is to try and convert more average, in inverted commas, normie people, because that's the only thing that matters at the moment. I like you and I and Sojo could argue like endlessly about where we end up, but I think where we are now and what we've got to change, all of us can mostly agree on. That was my main point, really.
Yeah. I don't think it's completely over yet. But the reality is that, like I've said before in other streams, where if you actually set up a political party and promoted English nationalism that was sort of socialist leaning, you could quite easily take away all of the North and all of the Midlands as a block. Then you would force the Overton window, both from the Conservatives and Labour, to start adopting those policies quite
Maybe.
easily. But you need, obviously, the problem is that this imaginary political party that I've just invented is imaginary and it isn't real, and it's quite difficult to set up a political party. And
it sure ain't the Labour Party, as you well know.
No, it isn't them, and it isn't the Conservatives. It's this imaginary party.
Listen, I detest the Conservative Party. I mean, don't even. I reckon they're the biggest con there ever is. They haven't conserved anything since about 1897.
Well, they're conserving. There's conservative globo homo. That's what they're conserving.
They're Labour Party light, mate. That's what they are.
Yeah.
They're Labour Party light. Listen, I want to move on slightly because, like, this has been quite long, and I just want to like give people an indication of the way my channel is going to go. And let me make clear, this doesn't mean that this is the way Sojourner is going to go, and it certainly doesn't mean this is the way some Northern nationalist is going to go. It's the way my channel is going to go. I want to do more streams that will give some advice to young blokes. I think there are huge numbers of teenagers and young men in the UK and Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and America for that matter, and Europe, who basically don't know how to be a man because they don't have a dad, they don't have a grandfather, many of them don't even have a great grandfather, and they never met any of them, and they have no fucking idea what you need to do to be a man. So I would like to do more streams on that. I'd like to do some streams also on like what young fellows, teenagers and young men should do to meet women. I'd like to do some streams on like when you're in a relationship with a woman, how you behave, because I think like Phil was saying earlier, and also Sojo to some degree, like there's loads of blokes these days who think if you're in a relationship with a woman, all you've got to do is say yes, which is actually the worst thing you can possibly do in a long time. So I'd like to do that. Forgive me. I'd like to do that. I'd also like to do some film and book reviews. In particular, I'm going to do a review on Zulu from 1964, which will look at the movie, the actual battle, and various things associated with it. And I am absolutely going to do a Master and Commander 2003 review, which will look at the movie and also the 20 odd books by Patrick O'Brian that it's based on, which is one of the best historical novel collections that there is. So we're going to do that. I'm going to not do much against other groups. Like, I don't care really what PA do. I've said what I need to say about PA. I think they're idiots, or glow in the darks, or a combination of the both. So I'm not going to go on about that. I don't think there's any point. If someone asks me, yeah, I'll answer. But I'm not going to go on about it. But I want to do different stuff that actually helps our people, and particularly young British guys. Like the Brits for 1,200 years, if you wanted to find the bravest of the brave and the best trained of the best trained, you go and look at the Brits. That's just what they were. Royal Navy, British Army, RAF, much later. Like, they're the best of the best. Don't despair of your country. Don't despair of your people. I think we can change. And on that note, before we close, and when we do close, I've got another little tune for you guys, by the way. But before we close, I'm going to ask some Northern Nationalist Phil, and I'm going to ask Sojourner to give closing words if they have any.
I think I've pretty much said everything, really. Just improve yourself, be all rounded, and you'll be okay. Don't worry too much. It's not all over. Yeah, don't be blackpilled or anything.
Sojo?
Well, I look forward to the stream about the films and some books. I'm very interested in that. Master and Commander is a great film. I only watched that the other day. I almost shed a tear at some point when he said, "This ship is England."
Yeah, absolutely.
What a great line that was. Yeah. What closing remarks? Yeah, just get off the fucking internet. Like, most of you people are neats and you're fucking losers. You know, get out there and do something. Live life to the full. Don't fucking spurg out on the internet. That's all I've got to say, really.
All right. It's been very great for you guys. Sojourner, some Northern Nationalists, many, many thanks for coming on the stream. And I'm going to play us out a Rudyard Kipling poem before we go. If I can find it, which I suspect I can. There we go.
The Kipling poem is one of my favorites since I was a boy at school. My father read it to me once. And I think it to me as a little boy, it summed up what a man should be. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowances for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet, Don't look too good nor look too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life for broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at the beginning, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are done, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but not too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 40 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
Defeat. My defeat. My solid.
Rudy. Rudy.